Hi guys. So, a bit of a disclaimer. I've been having a really rough couple of days. So, writing this script was a mission, but it was a mission I was determined to complete because I'm actually really excited to talk about today's topic, which is a bit ironic because, in case you haven't noticed, I am a woman. So, I don't have much ground. Um, to talk about what I want to talk about today, but I'm here nonetheless. And I have a lot of opinions and thoughts about what I'm about to talk about today. But yeah, before I get too ahead of myself, today I'm going to be discussing male beauty standards, or should I say, my analysis on male beauty standards based on the men around me and the men that I see on social media. So, when I first began writing the script for today's discussion, I didn't know where to start because one, I am not a man. So, my perspective on male beauty standards are only from a third party's perspective or from an outsider's point of view. And two, male beauty standards aren't as discussed as female beauty standards. So, they aren't criticized as much, and therefore there isn't critical review on male beauty standards that is available. My point is even when researching, I really struggle to get source material and to get a starting point for where I wanted to go with today's discussion, because there aren't many articles, or there isn't much information that discusses male beauty standards and that analyzes male beauty standards until now, obviously. Now, because of the limited information that is available on the physical expectation that men are held up to, for today's discussion, beauty standards is not going to be limited to the physical appearance of men, but will refer to the expectations that men experience in general. And in my opinion, I feel like this description is more fitting because, unlike women, men's attractiveness is not the most important expectation or standard that they need to achieve. And during this discussion, I will explain what I mean by that. Before I go in, just some housekeeping. As per usual, you're more than welcome to share your opinions in the comments as long as you are respectful and yeah, just be respectful, hey? So let's begin. When discussing male beauty standards, I feel like it makes the most sense to begin our discussions by addressing masculinity, because it is quite literally the tip of the icebergs when it comes to male beauty standards. It is the aspect of male beauty standards that is discussed the most. And if I'm being quite honest, much of the points I'm going to address during today's discussion could fall under masculinity, depending on your definition of masculinity. Now, I'm not going to give a definition of what masculinity is because, if I'm being honest with myself, I do not know what it is. And even though the term masculinity is often used to describe someone's actions, character, or their physical appearance, I truly do believe that masculinity, to some extent, whether big or small, and regardless of what you define it as, is a feeling that comes with being a man. And I am not a man. So, because of that, I will never truly understand what true internal masculinity is. And I'm not referring to internalized toxic masculinity because that's a completely different thing. I just mean internal masculinity. However, how I am going to be defining masculinity for today's discussion is by breaking it up into three of its most observable components, which are number one, a man's physical appearance, number two, a man's character, and number three, a man's libido. Though not explicitly stated, there is a way in which men are expected to look, and as it pertains to masculinity, there is a way in which men are supposed to look masculine looking. And this is different for the male versus the female gaze. But for today's discussion, I'm going to be focusing on the male gaze. That is, during young adulthood, young men are expected to have an athletic and toned build, one that is accompanied by visible abs, large biceps, and a prominent chest. And though I do not think there's anything inherently wrong with encouraging an athletic build, as it would imply that more men are athletic, which is one of many indications of good health. The issue with this beauty standard is people's understanding of how achievable athletic build is, as well as the standard of how an athletic build looks like that it has been portrayed on social media. What I mean by this is that society lacks the understanding of what an achievable and not just realistic but a real athletic build looks like. What is promoted in social media, films, and in casual conversations is often a physique that is only achievable through performance enhancements. And even then, the physique that we see is of the well-lit, airbrushed, and toned version of the already enhanced physique. To put what I'm saying into perspective, I'm going to use a natural bodybuilder that I follow on YouTube as an example. He made a video about exactly what I'm talking about, and I will link it in the description. But I want to show you two pictures of himself that he showed during that YouTube video. The first picture is of himself fresh out of the gym with a pump, and the second picture is of himself, the exact same body, but the morning after. Both images of his body and both physiques are incredibly impressive and took years to achieve. However, the first picture is often what is marketed as what a man is supposed to look like on a daily basis, without the understanding that this is the pumped version. It's not how you look on a daily basis. Now young men see these kind of bodies and knowing that these are enhanced, and on top of that they just came out of the gym, so they have a huge pump and they want to go to the gym for the next 6 to 12 months and expect to look like this. And once they realize that it takes a lot longer and a lot more hard work to achieve this physique, they turn to performance enhancement drugs without the understanding of how these PEDs, they call them PEDs, how these PEDs can affect them in the long term. The idea of an athletic body that is shown in media is not real. And I don't mean it's not realistic. I mean it is not real. No one is toned 24/7 with huge biceps and a low body fat percentage. Yes, an athletic build does exist, but it is not what is shown in the media. Now, for this section of today's discussion, I'm going to discuss the expectations that men face on their personalities, the way they're expected to act, their character. Men are expected to be strong, and this strength is supposed to translate in the way they carry themselves. They're expected to be in control and dominant, not only in their romantic relationships, but in everyday situations. There is an inherent aggressiveness that is expected to come with being a man. And though I do not think there's anything inherently wrong with this expectation, The issue with it, similar to their physical appearance, is the way in which it is portrayed. It is often portrayed in the manner that is to the detriment of men themselves and the people around him. There is nothing wrong with wanting men to be strong and in control of their environment or their emotions. The issue is the manner in which we have taught men to measure strength. Strength is often measured by or compared to the presence of a man's emotions. Emotions are a natural human characteristic that is often associated with femininity. And as we all know, femininity is rumored to be accompanied by weakness. Now, instead of strength being a testament of hard work, discipline, good morale, and faith, you could literally be the biggest bum emhlabeni, but as long as you do not show your emotions when things go really bad in your life, you are a strong man. And you are taking the punches that come with life with strength and diligence, without recognizing that a lot of the time, these punches are caused by your own actions, which I will get into a bit later. Now, apart from what is clearly wrong with this way of measuring strength, that is, it promotes a culture where men do not prioritize being a good and responsible person as a true testament of strength. It also stunts the emotional growth of men, which results in the emotionally mature men that we see today. And I'm not saying this to be mean to men, I'm just genuinely being honest. I've had my fair share of male friends and casual interactions with men, and I've taken it upon myself to observe the young and the adult men around me. And I've noticed that regardless of how young, old, how well or not well you are coping with the struggles around you, or what morals you have, there is a common theme amongst men, which is their inability to process their emotions. Now, I will say I have met my fair share of women who do not know how to process their emotions. However, what I have noticed that is more common in women is that they are unable to process their emotions productively, whereas with men, they do not know how to process their emotions, period. And the consequences of not processing your emotions include mood swings, unexplained sadness, the accumulation of negative emotions, aggressive outbursts, and in extreme cases, physical illness. But what we see in real life is men not thinking things through and making nonsensical choices that they will regret after they have made the choice, without fully understanding or processing or even allowing themselves to think about how their actions could affect themselves or the people around them. So I don't think that I can say the word on YouTube. So for this section, I'm going to replace that word with the word activity, activity. So we're just gonna say activity. Okay, great. I feel like there is more of an emphasis on a man's activity than there is on a woman's activity. And it's one of those things in life that I don't understand, if I'm being honest. Like, why do you guys care if your friend is charming or not? Like, what does that have to do with you? But on a serious note, I do understand that men have a higher libido than women because of the higher testosterone levels in men. And that is not a problem. That's okay, it's fine. The issue is the way in which society has turned a man's activity into a currency of masculinity, and in many cases is seen as a stronger currency than a man's physical appearance, a man's personality, a man's morals, whether or not they are respectful towards women, or just if they're a good person or not. And we've seen it time and time again when there is a man that is conventionally unattractive, and more importantly, is honestly not that interesting or good of a person. But the minute people find out that this person gets girls, there is a sudden spoken or unspoken level of respect and acceptance that is given to him. For women, this has contributed to women being seen as transactional objects for a man's activity. And for men, this has created breeding grounds for young men to have a very disgusting approach to pleasure, one that prioritizes self gratification over intimacy. Now, the beauty standard we're going to discuss now is not really discussed much in media or in general, and I don't know if it's a South African thing that is rooted in the African traditions that we have. However, there is this unspoken pressure or urgency, more than it is an expectation within men, to settle down and have a family that looks like a wife and kids that they support. When I speak to guys within my age group, so 18 to 25-year-olds, despite often being immature in the way they navigate relationships, they all often hold the same sentiment, which is I want to be settled down and have children by the age of 27 and 28. I feel like this sentiment is a sentiment that a lot of men hold, which has contributed to some men's insistent need to always be in a relationship. People have already explored or have attempted to explore the psychology of this kind of behavior within women, often credited to daddy issues. However, the same cannot be said with men. I feel like a lot of men have a dependency towards relationships, and this could be because of a multitude of reasons, such as loneliness or a high libido. However, I also think they have this subconscious or conscious need to have a family, which creates a need to always be in a relationship or to have someone with you, in hopes that this relationship will be the beginning of the future family that he wants. Now, this results in men getting into relationships without properly thinking about who they're getting into the relationship in, if they're really ready for a relationship, or why they want to get into a relationship in the first place. And this can play out in different ways, such as finding yourself unhappy in a relationship because it took you 6 months to actually get to know the person you're dating, or realizing that you're not ready to settle down, but you are unwilling to let go of this good girl, so you choose to cheat to satisfy your other desires. Okay, so for this beauty standard, I won't even lie. This beauty standard is perpetrated more by women than it is by men, and that is the unreasonable expectation for men to have money given their age. And right now, I'm speaking for my age group. I'm a university student, so I'm speaking for students as well as new postgrads. I understand expecting a 30-year-old to have money, because at that point we should all have money. But expecting a 20 to 25-year-old to take care of you like they're one of your parents is incredibly unreasonable. And I'm not saying that wanting to be spoiled is a bad thing. I like being spoiled. People in loving and healthy relationships should want to spoil each other. However, I feel like as young women, we need to learn how to be more understanding and reasonable with our expectations from our partners. We are quite literally at the beginning of our adult lives. We are at the stage in our lives where we are setting up the building blocks to be able to make money in future. You cannot expect your partner to have money like they're 2 years into working. You don't even have that money. And if they do have that money, it's probably their parents' money, because no one our age has that much money at this point in life. And I do understand that this idea is rooted in patriarchal views that are promoted by both men and women. That is the idea that men should be providers in a relationship. And I also know that men also promote this idea. It's just that they only start promoting it when they can see that they have money and they want to settle down, but they are quiet about it when they don't have money. I also understand and completely get behind wanting to be with someone with money because you have money and you want your partner to keep up with your lifestyle. I get that. My issue comes in is when there is a double standard. You can't expect your partner to have a car when you don't even have a learner's license. I've been paying attention to the men around me and their actions, as well as how their actions affect me and the people around them. And I couldn't help but notice the unfair standards that men are subjected to. In terms of a solution, I honestly don't know, because I don't think men want to even change. I think men have become very comfortable in their discomfort. And I also don't think most men have the emotional maturity to change. It takes a lot of emotional maturity to recognize these things, want to change them, and actually take the steps to changing them in a healthy manner. And emotional maturity that I don't think many men possess, because their growth was stunted at a very young age due to being told that they have to suppress their emotions and their feelings. Hi guys, I really hope that this video attracted a lot of men, because I don't just want a female audience. I want everyone to come watch my videos, because why not? We could all gain some insight from each other. I also really hope that I did justice to men, because I'm not a man, and yeah, I hope my points, I conveyed them in a productive manner and I was able to articulate myself well. I also hope you enjoyed today's discussion, and my favorite part of the video, picture. I am wearing a soccer shirt, with pet. This is, it can't get any more masculine than this. Look at me. Ah, it's giving in daughter. Okay. Bye.